Good morning, everyone. Lee Henson, president and founder of AgileDad. And it's time for today's edition of the Daily Stand-Up. Without any further ado, let's get started. One thing that's positive that's come out of this whole COVID-19 thing is I think that it gave people's creative stimulus some room to run wild and run free. And I just think that I've seen some of the most powerful and interesting and entertaining articles, during this COVID period that people have published, whether it's a blog or whether it's a LinkedIn article. In this case, someone sent in a LinkedIn article to me, and it's called Agile Aristotle. Now, I know many of you have already looked up and seen that I'm the Brad Pitt of Scrum, but I'm a huge fan when it comes to philosophy and psychology and science. So I thought I'd take a look and see what this Agile Aristotle was all about. And Hugh Tyson, I hope I got his last name right, put together this article, and it's a great article. It's a short article, but it gives you a good feel for why people are looking towards Agile. Here's where he went. He said, for digital product delivery, Agile software development is often favored over waterfall development. No doubt. There are two limitations in a waterfall model that make this possible. Once a product is in the testing phase, it's problematic to go back and modify a feature that was not well thought out during a design phase. So it has that separation, which definitely makes sense. And second, a working prototype is produced much later in the development lifecycle. In contrast, Agile focusing on iterating and pivoting quickly using working prototypes. As a result, feature modification is easier across the lifecycle since a minimum viable product emerges sooner. True, true, true. I do want to point out, though, that the two things that he said here were, one, that we're taking time for ideation, that we're actually taking time to figure out what ideation we want and what do we need to build, and we're carving that time out. And two, that we are doing some type of MVP or discovery. And I think that if you have those two things, then this definitely holds true. But I think that those are the two that separate waterfall from Agile right there. That's definitely the two separators. But oftentimes you overlook those two steps in the Agile framework and you jump straight to bring me a rock, bring me a shrubbery, right? For all you Monty Python fans. You can't, not that type of shrubbery. I was thinking a more ornamental shrubbery. It's just, you never know what you're going to get. And I think what they're trying to say here is it better to start with something and move around it? Or is it better to start with nothing and try to figure it out as you go? And I think it's always better to start with something, even if it's just an idea, and they create an MVP right away and then move on from that. That's the key that they're trying to say, and that's the separator here. He says, I've heard often that Agile's the latest buzzword. However, the more you learn about the high-level concepts behind it, the more you have flashbacks of your high school philosophy class. Here we go. This is where it's going to get interesting. So Aristotle, a.k.a. the father of Western philosophy, developed a theory of empiricism based on observation. Aristotle describes scientific inquiry as a body of properly organized learning through experimentation. What he was describing in the late 300s BC was iterative testing for a partly formed hypothesis or prototype. Yes, that's me clapping in the background. It's beautiful. So is Aristotle also the forefather of Agile software development? Yes. Perhaps it's a stretch, but empiricism served as a foundational theory that, Hassan ibn al-Haytham of Arabia used in 1000 BC to refine and publish the scientific method. Come on, really? We're going all the way back to the scientific method? This is great. One could argue that the 4 steps of the scientific method are the true foundation of Agile. Okay, guys, everyone knows I have a good relationship with Alistair Coburn, Ken Schwaber, and others who've written the Agile Manifesto, but here we go. This is probably the real Agile Manifesto. This happened so long ago, but this is what it was all about, right? Check this out. The 4 steps of the scientific method. 1, gather information about a question you want to solve, aka write a powerful user story. 2, form a hypothesis, aka build a prototype or an MVP. 3, test the hypothesis and gather feedback, aka demo with real users. 4, start over, aka refine a backlog. I think my head just exploded, right? The Agile Manifesto is basically a collective response to the scientific method and to Aristotle's work, in which we can respond quickly to internal and external customers, create applicable, delightful products that people actually want to use. Wow. I think something that I just now identified that's really scary, and I should go on and say I didn't identify it, but something that was brought to my attention by Hugh, and I love his close. Here it is. He says, quote, "So do ancient Greece a favor, and next time you think of Aristotle, give him the props for being the OG Agilist. Agile Aristotle, baby." I love it. I'm sitting here spellbound. It is hard to make me tongue twisted. It is hard to leave me speechless. But let me tell you, one of the things that's so powerful about this podcast is that was my first time reading through the article with you so that you could discover and hear my emotion as we went through. And I can tell you right now, this is powerful. This is fantastic. To think that Agile has its roots even further back than the Agile Manifesto, even further back than 1961 and Industrial Dynamics by Jay Forrester, that Agile goes back to Aristotle in 344 BC and to the scientific method in 1000 BC. And I think this is going to be probably the biggest aha ever on a daily stand-up podcast. Here we go. You often hear me say that Agile is about common sense. You hear me say that Agile is a frame of mind, about doing the right thing, about just making good choices, you'll hear me say. What I can tell you is that if you reflect on this article and you look at what's there, this shows that this is the way we've been doing things since the beginning of time. Agile is about collecting the way that we've been doing things since we've been doing things and figuring out how to make powerful decisions that are impactful. It's about how to create an environment where people can, discover change, appreciate change, and pivot and make adjustments. I think that Agile, was the innovation was the founder of Agile, obviously, but innovation's been around forever. And I think that this just reinforces that Agile mindsets have really been around, but they haven't been formalized. And there's probably a good reason they haven't been formalized, because the inspect and adapt process really does allow us to formulate a framework that makes sense, and it allows us to make critical decisions. And my only hope now is that we can teach the youth of today how to problem solve and how to make decisions and how to make better choices. Because I think once we cross that hurdle, I think we can collectively make the world a better place. So I hope you enjoyed this unique perspective on Agile Aristotle. As always, we encourage you, if you have ideas for an episode of the Daily Stand-Up, send it over. We'd love to hear from you at learnmore@agiledad.com. You can learn more about this topic and many others at agiledad.com. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.